The night was cold on the edge of the alien colony. The sky was full of strange lights, colors that humans could not name. In a small metal hut, a poor human mechanic named Evan Core worked alone. His workshop was full of broken machines, half-dead, robots and old tools that sparked whenever he used them. The air smelled of oil, smoke and sadness. Evan had not eaten a proper meal in 2 days. His last job had paid him only enough to buy a small loaf of bread and a few power cells for his dying equipment. He had once dreamed of designing great starship engines, but now he was fixing broken hover bikes for people who barely remembered his name. Still, he worked. His hands were tired, but his heart was kind. That night, while tightening the screws on a damaged drone, Evan heard a soft thump outside his door. He paused. It sounded small, weak, like something had fallen and couldn't get up. He wiped his hands on his dirty shirt and opened the workshop door. Rain fell in silver streaks under the neon lights. The alley was empty except for a small shadow near the steps. Evan moved closer and gasped. It was a little alien girl, lying on the cold ground, shaking. Her skin was pale blue, her clothes torn, and her legs were not real. They were made of metal, old and rusted, barely holding together. "Hey, are you all right?" Evan asked softly, kneeling beside her. The girl looked up, her large eyes glowing faintly like 2 blue suns. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. "Please help. My legs don't work anymore." Without thinking, Evan picked her up and carried her inside. She was light, too light. He laid her on his work table and checked her mechanical limbs. The joints were full of cracks, the power source was gone, and the connectors had melted. Whoever built them had done it in a hurry. "What happened to you?" he asked gently. She didn't answer. She just looked around, frightened. Her eyes darted to the window as if someone might be chasing her. Evan noticed a small mark on her wrist, a glowing symbol that looked like a royal seal. He didn't know what it meant, but it seemed important. Still, he said nothing. "Don't worry," he told her. "I'll fix your legs." She blinked, confused. "You will?" He smiled. "Of course, that's what I do." He started gathering parts from broken machines, bits of metal from an old drone, wiring from a scrap droid, and a small fusion cell from his own toolkit. His robot assistant, a small cube-shaped bot named Pix, rolled closer and beeped softly. "Low energy, Master. Recommend sleep mode." "Not tonight, Pix," Evan muttered. "We've got a guest." The girl watched as he worked. Sparks flew around the room as he welded pieces together, shaping new legs for her. His fingers moved fast, but his mind was calm. Every sound, the hum of tools, the buzz of wires, felt like music to him. Hours passed. Outside, the rain slowed. Inside, the little alien girl fell asleep on the work table, her head resting near the pile of tools. Evan looked at her face, peaceful now. She looked too young to be alone, too innocent to be broken. He whispered to himself, "What kind of world lets a child end up like this?" By dawn, the new Exo-Legs were almost complete. They weren't perfect, made from mismatched scraps, but they were strong, flexible, and powered by a glowing blue cell that pulsed like a heartbeat. Evan attached them carefully, making sure each joint responded. When the girl woke up, she stared at him, then at her legs. They move," she said in surprise. Evan nodded with a smile. "Try standing up." Slowly, she placed her small feet on the ground. The Exo-Legs whirred softly. She took one shaky step, then another. Her eyes widened. She laughed, a sound so pure that even the broken lights in the room seemed brighter. Evan leaned back against his chair, tired but happy. "There you go," he said. "You're walking again." The girl looked at him with tears in her glowing eyes. "Thank you, human," she whispered. He waved his hand. "Don't thank me. Just don't run into more trouble, all right?" She nodded, but then for a moment her eyes glowed brighter, too bright. The small royal seal on her wrist shimmered like a star. Far above the clouds, something unseen answered that glow. Evan didn't notice, He just smiled, proud of his work. But somewhere out there, a powerful ship was already moving toward the colony. The Queen's scanners had found the signal of her lost daughter, and the broke human mechanic had no idea that his simple act of kindness had just changed the fate of two worlds. Morning sunlight broke through the cracks of the old workshop roof, scattering gold dust across the floor. Evan woke up slumped in his chair, his neck sore, hands still holding a wrench. The smell of oil and burnt metal filled the air. He blinked a few times before realizing someone was watching him. The little alien girl stood near the window, balancing carefully on her new Exo-Legs. Her eyes shone brighter now, full of life and wonder. The legs moved smoothly, glowing faint blue with every step she took. She looked amazed, like she was walking on clouds for the first time in her life. Evan rubbed his eyes and smiled. "You're up early," he said. She turned quickly, her voice soft and curious. "They really work. You fixed me." He chuckled. "Told you I would. Those legs aren't fancy, but they'll hold you for a while." She looked down, bending her knees slightly as the metal joints hummed in rhythm. "They're beautiful," she said, almost whispering. Her small fingers traced the shining metal plates as if they were precious jewels. Evan felt something warm in his chest. He hadn't seen joy like that in years. Not since before the war. Not since Earth had fallen into silence. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, biting her lip. "I can't tell. Mama said not to." Evan raised an eyebrow. "Your mama must be someone important, huh?" The girl looked away. "She's far away." He didn't push further. There was sadness in her voice, a loneliness he understood well. Instead, he grabbed an old canister of food paste from his shelf and handed it to her. "Here, breakfast. Don't mind the taste. Humans aren't known for good cooking." She took it carefully, sniffed it, and giggled. "It smells funny." Evan laughed. "It tastes even worse." They sat together on the floor, eating quietly. Outside, the colony slowly came to life. The distant hum of hoverbikes, merchants shouting prices, and the faint sirens of security patrols. But inside the workshop, it was peaceful. For the first time in years, Evan didn't feel alone. As the girl explored the room, she touched every tool and gear with fascination. "Humans build such strange things," she said. "Everything is broken but alive." Evan smiled at the strange truth in her words. "That's humans for you. We fix what's broken even when we're broken ourselves." Pix, his small cube-shaped robot, rolled closer and beeped cheerfully. Subject energy stable. Heartbeat strong. The girl gasped. "It talks," Evan laughed. "That's Pix. Don't let him fool you. He complains more than he helps." Pix buzzed indignantly. "False. I provide 75% efficiency." The girl giggled again, the sound soft and musical. For a moment it felt like the workshop wasn't a lonely place anymore. Hours passed as Evan adjusted the Exo-Legs and fine-tuned the power flow. He wanted them perfect. Each small improvement made her steps steadier, smoother, more natural. Her laughter filled the air like sunlight, but far above the colony, unseen to them, a signal pulsed through the clouds, a faint blue echo from the Exo-Legs core. A royal tracker detected it, sending a notification to a massive ship orbiting the planet. Inside that ship, the alien queen opened her eyes. Her energy signature. "My daughter," she whispered. Her heart trembled between relief and fury. "Find who did this." Back on the ground, Evan had no idea his invention had just drawn the attention of an empire. That evening, the girl sat by the window again, watching the sunset paint the sky in orange and purple. "Why did you help me?" she asked quietly. "You didn't even know me." Evan shrugged, still fixing a circuit board. "Because someone should. Because no one else would." She tilted her head. "You're kind, not like others say humans are." He smiled faintly. "Not all stories about us are true." Her eyes softened. "Then maybe not all stories about my people are true either." They looked at each other for a moment, two beings from different worlds finding something familiar in the silence. As night fell, Evan placed a small blanket over her shoulders. "You should rest," he said. "We'll figure out what to do tomorrow." The girl nodded, yawning, but before falling asleep, she whispered, "If Mama finds me, I'll tell her humans are good." Evan chuckled. "Sure, you do that." She smiled sleepily, curling up near the warm engine light. Outside, in the distant night sky, a royal warship streaked through the stars toward the colony. The Queen's scouts had already locked onto the workshop's coordinates, and while Evan slept peacefully, believing he'd simply saved a lost child, fate had already set a trap. By the time the next sunrise came, his life, and the balance between two worlds, would never be the same again. The morning came quietly, but something strange lingered in the air. The small colony streets buzzed with unease. Drones hummed louder than usual. Soldiers in dark armor marched near the landing docks. No one knew why, but everyone felt it. Something powerful was coming. Evan didn't notice any of it. He was too busy showing the little alien girl how to control her new Exo-Legs. The tiny servos glowed blue with each step, reacting smoothly to her balance. Her laughter filled the dusty workshop as she tried to run but stumbled into an old toolbox. "Easy there," Evan said, smiling. "You don't need to break my floor on your first day walking." She laughed and got up again, her eyes bright. "I can walk, I can run. I feel free." Evan smiled softly. "That's good, kid. That's what I wanted." But far above the clouds, an orbiting royal cruiser had already detected the faint pulse of her Exo-Legs. Inside the ship, an officer bowed before a holographic image of the Queen. "My Queen, we have confirmed the energy signal. It matches your daughter's genetic code." The Queen's golden eyes burned with emotion. "Locate the source. Bring her back at any cost. No harm must come to her, or to whoever built that device." "I want to know who touched royal tech." "Yes, Your Majesty." Down below, Evan's small act of kindness had triggered a search that spanned light years. That afternoon, the colony's sky darkened as sleek surveillance drones flew overhead, scanning the streets. Evan looked up from his bench, confused. "That's new," he muttered. "Haven't seen patrols like that in months." The girl froze, her hands shaking. "Those aren't patrols. They're hunters," Evan frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked at him, fear in her glowing eyes. "They're looking for me." He didn't believe her at first. "You sure?" She nodded, tears welling up. "Mama said if I ran away, they'd find me by my light." Evan remembered the strange blue pulse in her legs. He turned toward the workbench and quickly grabbed a scanner. The device beeped wildly. "Damn it," he whispered. "You're right. They're tracking the energy signature from your Exo-Legs." He paced across the workshop, thinking fast. "All right, we'll fix this. I'll build a dampener. It'll hide your signal." The girl watched him with trembling hands. "You'd help me again?" "Of course," he said, already digging through piles of old tech. No kid should be hunted. For hours, Evan worked with burning focus. Sparks lit up the dark room as he built a small cube-shaped device using fragments of old comms chips and signal inhibitors. Sweat ran down his forehead and his hands shook from exhaustion, but he didn't stop. Finally, he placed the cube against the Exo-Legs power source. The lights flickered, dimming slightly. "There," he said. "That should confuse whatever's tracking you." The girl looked amazed. "You're—" "Like magic," Evan chuckled weakly. "Nah, just an old mechanic who's too stubborn to quit." Outside, though, the drones began landing. Their scanners buzzed, searching for the vanished signal. Soldiers fanned out across the alleys. The colony's loudspeakers crackled to life. "Attention, citizens. Royal Security is conducting a search. Do not interfere. All humans must remain indoors." Evan peeked through the window, his heart pounding. "This doesn't look good." He turned to the girl. "We need to hide you now." He led her to the back of the workshop where an old cargo engine lay covered in dust. He pried open the side panel and motioned her inside. "Stay quiet no matter what happens." She clutched his sleeve. "What if they take you?" He smiled sadly. "Let's hope they don't." Moments later, heavy footsteps echoed outside. Metal boots clanged against the floor. A loud knock shook the door. "Open up!" "Royal Patrol!" Evan hesitated. Then he wiped his hands on his shirt and opened the door with a forced smile. "What seems to be the problem, officers?" The lead soldier's helmet glowed red. Energy readings from this sector. Show us your equipment. Evan stepped aside, trying to act calm. Sure, just a mechanic. Nothing fancy here. The soldiers entered, scanning every inch of the workshop. One of them kicked over a toolbox, another checked under the benches. The scanner on the leader's wrist beeped softly. Signal was here, the soldier muttered. It's faint, like someone tried to mask it. Evan's stomach tightened. Probably interference from my tools, he said quickly. The soldier stepped closer, glaring. You wouldn't hide anything from the Royal Guard, would you, human? Evan forced a small laugh. I'm too broke to hide anything. After a tense pause, the soldier lowered his scanner. Fine, but if we find you're lying, you'll wish you weren't. When they finally left, Evan locked the door and exhaled in relief. He went to the engine, gently tapping it twice. They're gone, he whispered. The panel opened and the girl crawled out, eyes full of tears. You saved me again. Evan smiled softly. We're not safe yet, kid. Not by a long shot. Outside, as the patrols moved away, one elite officer stayed behind, his glowing visor scanning the sky. He tapped his comms and spoke coldly. The human signal masking tech? It's advanced. Too advanced. I'm staying behind to investigate. Far above, the Queen's ship adjusted its course again. She whispered, Whoever protects my daughter will soon face me. And under the dull glow of alien stars, Evan Core unknowingly became a target of both fear and respect, the human who dared to defy a galactic queen. Night fell heavy over the colony. The rain returned, whispering against metal roofs and glowing signs. Evan sat near the window, his eyes fixed on the dark sky. The girl was asleep again, her small body curled beside Pix, the robot softly humming. For a moment, everything was quiet, but far above in orbit, silence turned into motion. The royal fleet had arrived. Massive ships, black and gold, hovered over the planet's atmosphere. Their engines glowed like suns, and their scanners reached deep into every street below. The Queen's orders were clear. Retrieve the princess unharmed. Detain the human who touched forbidden royal tech. Evan didn't know his name was already on a wanted list. By dawn, soldiers in shimmering armor filled the colony streets. Civilians were told to stay indoors. Loudspeakers blared warnings in 3 different languages. Royal search in progress. Do not interfere. Resistance will be punished. Evan heard the announcements and felt his chest tighten. They're getting closer, he whispered. The little alien girl, still half asleep, looked up. Is it them? He nodded. I think so. She clung to his arm. They'll take me back. I don't want to go. Evan looked into her glowing eyes and saw real fear, the kind that only came from experience. You won't go anywhere, he said firmly. Not while I'm breathing. He grabbed his old tool belt and began pulling out scrap parts, wires, and small fusion cells. We'll need distractions, he muttered. No time for running. We'll outsmart them. Pix beeped nervously. Warning, energy readings approaching. 20 life forms, 2 armored transports. Evan's hands moved faster. He connected wires, welded a small drone shell, and placed a blinking energy core inside. The girl watched silently. What are you building? She asked. He smiled slightly. A trick. Minutes later, a strange blue light rose above the workshop roof. It flew into the sky, sending out the same signal as her Exo-Legs. Far away, scanners picked it up instantly. Target located, Sector 9, East Block, shouted a soldier into his comms. Armored vehicles roared toward the decoy. Evan looked out the window and whispered, They'll chase that signal for at least an hour. The girl gasped softly. You fooled them, he grinned. Humans are good at surviving when we have no other choice. But one soldier, the same elite officer from before, didn't follow the others. He stood still, watching the workshop through the rain. His scanner didn't just track energy, it tracked heat patterns. And Evan's workshop was full of life signs. The officer's cold voice came through his comm. Main force, continue toward the decoy. I'll check another lead. Evan didn't see him approaching. He was already packing supplies, ready to move the girl to a safer place. We'll go to the scrapyard, he said. Old mine tunnels there. They won't scan underground. As they prepared to leave, the door suddenly slid open. The elite officer stepped inside, his armor gleaming under the light. His voice echoed through the room. Step away from the child, human. Evan froze. She's not a threat. She's just a kid. The officer raised his weapon. You've tampered with royal blood technology. You have no idea what that means. Evan stepped in front of the girl. All I did was fix her legs. That device you built carries the Queen's seal, the officer said coldly. Only the royal engineers of Zareth Prime can craft such code. How did you? By caring, Evan cut in. That's all. I didn't know who she was. I just saw someone who needed help. The officer hesitated for a moment, his weapon trembling slightly. But before he could answer, the girl stepped forward, her voice strong. Stop, don't hurt him. Her eyes glowed bright blue, and for an instant the officer froze. Recognition flashed in his visor. Your Highness, he whispered. She shook her head. Don't call me that. The officer stepped back in disbelief. You are alive. Evan blinked, confused. What did he just say? The officer slowly lowered his weapon. You saved the Queen's daughter. You don't understand what you've done, human. The entire Empire is searching for you both, Evan frowned. Then help us. She doesn't want to go back. The officer looked torn between duty and compassion. He finally whispered, Go, before the others return. Evan grabbed his bag, pulled the girl close, and nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me, the officer said. The Queen will come herself when she learns you've escaped again. Nothing in this system will stop her. Evan and the girl ran into the rain, disappearing into the maze of alleys. Behind them, the officer stood alone, staring at the glowing trail in the puddles. He whispered into his comm, I've lost the signal. Above the clouds, the royal cruiser adjusted its path once again. The hunt had only just begun. The storm had not stopped for 2 days. The colony's narrow streets were filled with mist and puddles of glowing blue water. Evan and the little alien girl hid in an old scrapyard at the edge of the district. The smell of burnt metal and damp dust filled the air. Every sound made them flinch, every hum of a drone, every footstep echo in the rain. Evan sat beside a broken engine, tightening the girl's Exo-Leg bolts with trembling fingers. We'll be fine, he said quietly, though he didn't believe it. His hands were shaking from exhaustion, not cold. The girl watched him silently, her eyes dim from fear. You shouldn't have helped me, she whispered. They'll hurt you, Evan smiled faintly. Too late for that. You needed help, I gave it. That's what humans do. Pix beeped nervously nearby. Alert, royal signals approaching. Estimated distance 5 kilometers and closing. Evan's heart sank. They found us again. The girl clutched his arm. We can hide, he shook his head. They'll scan the whole yard. No use hiding now. He stood up, picking up a welding torch. It wasn't a weapon, but it was all he had. If they come for us, we'll fight. Moments later, the sky filled with the hum of engines. Searchlights cut through the fog. 2 royal dropships descended near the scrapyard gates, their metal doors opening with a hiss. Armored soldiers stepped out, weapons glowing. Evan pushed the girl behind a stack of old engines. Stay down. Don't move, the soldiers spread out. Their scanners beeped as they approached. Evan's pulse pounded in his ears. He took a deep breath and stepped into the open, torch raised. Stop right there. A soldier barked. Evan held up his free hand. Easy. No one needs to get hurt. By order of the Queen, you are under arrest for harboring royal property, the soldier said coldly. She's not property. Evan shouted. She's a child. Before they could reply, Pix rolled out from behind the junk pile, flashing bright lights. Initiating distraction protocol, the robot chirped. It shot a burst of sparks toward the soldiers' scanners, blinding them for a second. Pix, no. Evan yelled, but it was too late. Gunfire filled the air. Sparks and plasma bolts burned through the rain. Evan ducked behind a metal frame, his welding torch flickering out. The girl screamed. When the smoke cleared, Pix lay shattered on the ground, its small light flickering weakly. Efficiency, 0%. It buzzed before going silent. Evan felt his chest tighten. Anger flared in his heart. He grabbed a loose metal rod and struck one of the soldiers as he charged forward. The man stumbled, but another guard hit Evan with the butt of a rifle, sending him crashing to the ground. Stop, the girl cried, running to him, but a soldier grabbed her by the arm. Don't touch her, Evan shouted, trying to stand, but a boot pressed down on his back, forcing him down into the mud. The lead officer looked down at him. You are brave, human. Foolish, but brave. He turned to his men. Bring them both. Evan struggled, his voice hoarse. Where are you taking us? To the royal flagship, the officer said. The Queen wishes to see the mechanic who built forbidden royal tech. They dragged Evan to the transport, binding his wrists. The girl was crying silently beside him, her glowing eyes dim. He tried to smile for her. "It's okay, kid. I've been through worse." Inside the dropship, the hum of engines drowned out their voices. Evan stared at the floor as they lifted off, the scrapyard shrinking below. He saw the remains of Pix glowing faintly one last time before vanishing in the mist. The girl leaned closer. "I'll tell Mama not to hurt you," she whispered. Evan gave her a small nod. "Just stay strong, all right?" When the ship reached orbit, the view through the window took his breath away. A massive vessel hovered above them, the Queen's flagship, shaped like a silver crown floating among the stars. Its surface shimmered with gold energy lines, and thousands of lights burned across its hull. The ship's gravity field pulled them in slowly. Evan felt his body tense. "That's her ship?" The guard beside him nodded. "The seat of power for the Zareth Empire." As the dropship docked, the soldiers pushed Evan forward into a grand metallic corridor. The walls glowed with symbols he couldn't read. Everything around him felt ancient, sacred, and far beyond anything humans had built. Finally, they entered a massive throne chamber. At its center stood the alien queen, her tall figure glowing with golden light, her crown floating just above her head. Her eyes burned like twin suns. When she saw the girl, her expression softened. "My child." The girl ran toward her. "Mama!" Evan froze, his heart pounding. The truth was standing before him. The child he saved was the royal heir of an empire. The queen lifted her daughter gently, then looked at Evan. Her voice was calm, yet sharp as a blade. "Human, you built my daughter's legs." Evan swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Majesty. I didn't know who she was. I just wanted to help." The queen's eyes narrowed. "Then you have changed the fate of 2 worlds." The guards pushed him to his knees as the throne room fell silent. The queen stepped closer, her golden aura surrounding him. "You repaired what even our best scientists could not. But you have also broken a sacred law." Evan lifted his head. "Then do what you have to. I don't regret it." The queen stared at him quietly for a long moment. Then she whispered, "We shall see what your heart truly holds, human mechanic." And with a wave of her hand, the guards took him away into the depths of the royal ship. The metallic doors slid open with a deep hiss, and Evan was pushed into a long glowing corridor. The floor shimmered like liquid gold, and the walls pulsed softly with energy. Alien guards walked behind him, silent and disciplined. His wrists were bound with a light field restraint that hummed faintly with each step. He could feel the weight of the entire empire pressing down on him, though he had never felt smaller in his life. They led him into a vast hall filled with shimmering light. Dozens of alien nobles stood along the walls, their eyes glowing in different shades of blue and violet. At the far end, the alien queen sat on her crystal throne, her daughter beside her. The child's small hand gripped the armrest tightly, eyes full of worry. The queen's presence filled the room like thunder. Her golden robe rippled with soft energy, and her gaze was both fierce and calm. When Evan was forced to kneel, the hall fell silent. Only the faint hum of the ship's engines echoed. "Human mechanic," the queen began, her voice echoing through the chamber. "You stand accused of trespassing upon royal technology, crafting forbidden designs and endangering the royal bloodline. Do you deny it?" Evan looked up slowly. "I didn't know she was royal," he said quietly. "I only saw a child who needed help. I fixed her legs because no one else would." A whisper rippled through the alien nobles. A few looked shocked, others angry. The queen's golden eyes flickered. "You risked your life. For a stranger?" Evan nodded. "For a child. Doesn't matter what species she is." The queen leaned forward. "And what did you hope to gain from this act?" "Nothing," Evan said. "I don't have much left to gain anyway." The hall fell silent again. The queen stood and slowly descended from her throne, her steps soundless. She walked around him, her aura bright enough to make him squint. "You used royal energy patterns in your design," she said. "Only our ancient engineers knew how to create living metal that binds to royal blood. How did a human, poor and forgotten, recreate that?" Evan shook his head. "I didn't recreate anything. I just listened. Listened." He hesitated, then spoke. "When I worked on her legs, I heard something in the metal, like a heartbeat. I followed it. It showed me what to do." The queen stared at him, studying his face for lies, but saw none. There was no greed, no pride, only truth and exhaustion. Her daughter suddenly stood up, her small voice trembling but strong. "Mama, he saved me. I fell in the colony and he found me. He didn't even know who I was. He gave me new legs and food and a place to sleep." The nobles gasped at her interruption, but the queen lifted her hand to silence them. She looked at her daughter. "You should not speak during judgment, but he's good," the girl cried.
"He's not like the others who only serve the crown?"
"He helped because he cared." The queen's expression softened for a brief moment, then hardened again. She turned back to Evan. "You understand that by touching her royal code, you have bonded yourself to it. Her legs now recognize your signature as part of the design. If you die, her exo-legs will stop working." Evan blinked. "Wait, what?" The queen's tone darkened. "You are tied to her now, whether you meant to be or not. That is why I cannot simply destroy you." One noble stepped forward angrily. "My queen, this human should be executed. He has violated sacred design." The queen raised her hand. "Enough." Her voice cut through the hall like a blade. "He will not die. He will be tested." Evan frowned. "Tested?" She stepped closer, her golden light reflecting in his tired eyes. "You claim your actions come from kindness. Then prove it. There is a station on the outer rim. A broken world my people abandoned after the wars. Its atmosphere kills most who enter. You will go there and repair the life systems." He blinked in disbelief. "You're sending me to fix a dead planet?" "If you succeed," she said, "you will be free. If you fail, your bond to my daughter will end, and she will fall once again." The child gasped, clutching her mother's robe. "No, don't hurt him." The queen turned to her daughter gently. "My child, mercy must be earned. If his heart is as pure as you believe, he will survive." Guards stepped forward, unlocking Evan's restraints. One handed him a small device. "This will monitor your work," the guard said. Evan took it, feeling its weight in his hand. He looked up at the queen. "I don't need your mercy," he said softly. "I just need a chance to make things right." The queen studied him for a long moment, her eyes unreadable. Finally she nodded. "Then you shall have it." As he was led out of the throne room, the little girl broke free and ran after him. She grabbed his hand tightly. "You'll come back, right?" Evan smiled weakly. "I've got a few more things to fix first." She hugged him quickly before the guards pulled her back. Her eyes shimmered with tears as the doors closed between them. Far above, the royal fleet turned toward the outer rim. The stars outside the window looked cold and endless. Evan stared into them, whispering to himself, "All right then." One last repair job, he didn't know it yet. But this mission would decide not only his fate, but the future of both human and alien kind. The shuttle doors opened with a hiss, releasing a wave of cold, dry air. Evan stepped out onto the cracked surface of the abandoned world. The sky above was a pale red haze, and the ground shimmered faintly with frost. Once this planet had been full of life and green forests. Now it was silent, dead for 100 years. He glanced at the device strapped to his wrist. The timer glowed softly. 72 hours to complete repairs. If he failed, both he and the child would die. Her exo-legs would lose power forever. Evan tightened his jacket and muttered, "All right, let's get to work." He followed a narrow metal walkway into the ruins of a once great energy station. The air smelled of rust and ozone. Giant machines lay frozen in time, their lights long extinguished. He could hear only the faint crackle of static from a broken intercom. Using scraps from his toolkit, he began checking the power relays. Everything was corroded, wires eaten by time. Still, he refused to stop. He soldered circuits, rerouted cores, and welded torn cables. His hands bled from the cold, but he worked like a man possessed. Every few hours, the Queen's holographic voice echoed from the device. "Status?" Evan never looked up. "Still breathing," he'd say, then continue. On the second night, a violent sandstorm swept across the station. He took shelter behind an old generator, covering his face with a torn cloth. Lightning cracked in the distance. The planet itself seemed to groan like a dying creature. Evan's mind filled with thoughts of the child. Her laughter, her glowing eyes, the way she had looked at him like he was more than just a broken man. He whispered into the storm, "I'll come back, kid. I promise." Inside the Queen's ship, her daughter couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching the distant planet shimmer in the dark. "Mama," she said softly, "he's all alone down there." The queen looked up from her throne. "He chose to go. But you sent him to die." The queen turned toward her child, her golden eyes sad. "He carries my people's energy in his creation. If he truly understands compassion, the world itself will respond to him. That is the test." The child looked away, tears filling her eyes. "He already proved it."
Why can't you see?
Down below, Evan continued working through the night. His body trembled from exhaustion. His vision blurred. But then, as he tried to restart the main reactor, a spark of light shot through the darkness. The ancient generator flickered, then glowed faintly. "Come on," he whispered, hitting the side panel. "Just a little more." The power core roared to life. One by one, lights across the ruined station came back on. The air began to warm. The sky above the planet shifted from red to gold as dormant systems awoke after a century of silence. Evan fell to his knees, laughing weakly. "You beautiful thing. You're alive again." In orbit, the queen stood as alarms rang through the command deck. "My lady, the planet's atmosphere is stabilizing," shouted one officer. The queen stared out the window, her voice trembling. "He did it?" She closed her eyes. For the first time in years, something in her heart moved, a warmth she hadn't felt since before the wars. Within minutes, a retrieval ship descended to the planet's surface. When the ramp opened, Evan stood there, covered in dust and oil, but smiling faintly. The queen herself stepped forward, her golden aura glowing against the stormy sky. "You succeeded," she said quietly. Evan nodded, exhausted. "It just needed care." "Everything does." The queen looked at him for a long time, then lowered her head slightly, an act no one in her empire had ever seen. "You have done more than repair a world. You've reminded my people of what it means to heal." The child ran out from behind her guards, shouting, "Evan!" She threw her arms around him. He laughed, hugging her back gently. The queen's eyes softened. "From this day forward, humanity and Zareth shall no longer stand apart." She turned to her generals. "Build a new research colony here. Let both our kinds work side by side, and give this man what he deserves." Evan shook his head. "I don't need riches. Just a place to work, somewhere to fix things." The queen smiled faintly. "Then you shall have that, and more." Months later, the planet once dead now bloomed again. The first joint colony between humans and aliens thrived under twin suns. At its center stood a modest workshop marked with two symbols, one human, one royal. Inside, Evan worked quietly while the little princess, now healthy and strong, helped him build new inventions for both worlds. Sometimes visitors came from across the stars just to see the human who repaired a world and changed an empire. But Evan never thought of himself as a hero. He would simply smile and say, "I just fixed what was broken." And far above in the royal palace, the queen would look down from her throne, whispering to the stars, "A gift from a human." And a lesson for a queen.